Okay, so where we done with yesterday, so we were talking about the processes, like how this Power BI, the important options works, right? So how we use this important export queries, basically important export options. I mean to say the direct query, import and direct query. Okay, so there would be another option called composite model, so which I talked about earlier even. So let's say there are some data which you pulling into the report using import option, and the same within the same report, and the other data set, like say, take an example a GCP, Google Cloud Platform, or it was something which is coming from Snowflake Cloud Data Warehousing, which is of a direct connection. So end of the day, once you establish the connection, either with import or direct connection, you will be having the data sets in your data model, right? So there we can establish the relationship between the different data sets of created with heterogeneous environment. Then that model we call it as a composite data model. Okay. Now comes up with the next features that what we have with here. So let's say what are the other features that we have seen. So let's say remove columns and keep top rows and keep bottom rows and keep range of rows, keep duplicates and keep it. So let's see like what it is. So let's say take an example of any of the, what is this table? Customer table. So anything we can use it of. So let's say this is the table, and we wanted to keep certain rows. Okay, we wanted to keep top 10 rows, top 10 records. Okay, so if you see here, we have these options as well. So let's check now with the top 10 records. So that would be chosen the top 10 records. So you may ask like, is there any pattern here? Like in general, how we do it in SQL, top 10 records in the sense we will use the order by clause, either by descending order or ascending order by salary. Let's say if we wanted to know the top 10 employees who are getting the highest salary. So that top is different and this top is different. Okay, that is totally different. And if you wanted to get a range, and if you see here, we are capturing all the information. Your these applied steps that are capturing at every information, and at any point of time, you can go back and do the changes by just removing the applied changes here. Okay. The next one, let's see like what happens when you keep a range of rows. The first row, let's say the fourth row. Okay, so the fourth row in the sense the way it is displaying here, and the number of rows I wanted the top next 10 records starting from fourth row. So basically it will be started with handlebars. It will be started with handlebars. Okay, the next 10 rows will be there. See, okay, that's how these options works. The key rows. So this is again another transformation that we are easily doing it with these options. Okay, and next comes up with our splitting the columns. So let's say if you take an example here, you have English product subcategory name. Okay, I have selected this, and again you have these options. If you see here, this is a sorting section, and you wanted to sort the data by ascending in ascending order. Again, that you can do, or if you wanted, you can do by descending order as well. Okay, that also you can do it. You can sort the data, then after you can remove the number of records using these two options. You can just exactly implement how that order by clause and the top command works in SQL. Okay, and next comes up with our split. So this has a vast features. If you see here, this has everything, and the split options that what we are seeing here, the by delimiter, by number of characters, by position, by lowercase to uppercase and uppercase to lowercase, by digit to non-digit, and by non-digit to digit. And see these options we also have here. When you select the column, when you do a right click, you will be having all these options. Whatever the options that we are seeing here, you will see mostly of all those options. Remove column. If you wanted to delete this column, you can use this option, and remove other columns that we have seen, right? That we have seen this option we have seen here. The duplicate column. If you wanted to create a duplicate column, simply you can do this. But when it is coming to the SQL, you need to write the aliasing. You need to write the same column name with with a different aliasing name. So then you can make it as a duplicate column. And when it is coming to Power BI, we have an option of a duplicate column to choose. So that is very simple to create. So this is the place where you can create a duplicate column, and this is the place where you can create a duplicate data set itself. Clear? So next comes up with your data type. Next comes up with our data type. So let's say this is a text data type, but what are the different data types that we have available in Power BI? This is an interview question. What are the different data types which Power BI supports? So we talked about decimal, we talked about fixed decimal, forget about fixed decimal. Both are similar, but not a big deal. And percentage, date and time, date, time, and duration, text, binary. So whole number. Whole number is nothing but your integer. So we talked about all these data types in SQL, and they're exactly similar as the functionality as how it is in SQL. Here also the same thing. There is no difference. There is no difference. So let's say if I have a column here, this is, see what happens if you notice, when you are importing the data from an Excel sheet, Power BI is doing multiple things in the backend. What it is doing, it is giving a pop-up to us, right? It is saying that creating the model, establishing the connection. So it is giving that kind of a messages for, right? So what it is doing basically, it is first loading the data. Then after it is reading the data and keeping the metadata information with it. So once the data model is ready, then also it is establishing the relationship by looking into the common columns between the two tables. Either it can be a one-to-one or a one-to-many relationship. It is automatically establishing the relationship for us, and that we have seen. On top of it, what it is doing, it is declaring the data type as well. It is defining the data type of every column. If you see here, the 1, 2, 3 stands for. If you click here, you also find the data type here. You can change the data type. And this 1, 2, 3 is nothing but your whole number. 1, 2, 3 is nothing but the whole number. The reason, because Power BI is thoroughly going through this entire data and giving Power BI is giving this data type and choosing this data type automatically by looking into the data. And when it is coming to the strings, and it is giving this one. If it is a different data type, it will be like, say like a date one, it automatically chooses. Let's say I wanted to make this one as a string type. That can be done, right? An integer can be converted as a string type. But if you see here, automatically the numbers are aligned to the left side of your column. That the similar behavior that you generally we see in Excel. Excel also same thing, right? All the text related items will be aligned to the right side, the left side of your cells, and the integers will be on the right side of the columns of the cells. Okay. And when it comes to the date, let's say if you have a date. So if you see here, this is automatically chosen by it, the date column. The date column is automatically chosen, and if you see here, since everything is date and it has the calendar. So this is something which Power BI automatically does. Automatically does the things. Okay. Any questions?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay. So, now let's see what are the other options that we have. So when I right click on this one, I can do the change data type also, I can do the change. So that is what we have seen. And these are the different data types, right? So transformations. This is again the same thing. This is again the same thing that we are seeing in the split column again. So, but if you see here, this is a lowercase, uppercase, and capitalize each word and trim, clean, length, JSON, and XML. So if we talk about, if we see all these functions, I believe like you all remember that we have used functions in SQL. For lowercase, we have used lower, and uppercase, we have used upper, and capitalize each word. Do we have any functions in SQL? Do we have any function in SQL? I think I have given you a task, right? To find out init cap. So that is a Oracle supported function, but I told you all to check it if it can be supported in SQL or not. SQL Server, I mean to say. So that's a Oracle supported init cap. Let's say, imagine that initial letter capital. So let's say for suppose now for time being, let's imagine that you do not have a function, you do not have a readily available function in SQL. So what you need to do, you need to write a long query. You need to write a long query, definitely with a lot of functions and a lot of logic to implement this one, to make every word in the string to be capitalized, right? Why? Because how your logic will be, so you have to capture every word in the string. Then you have to take the first character by using a left function or a substring function. You have to take the first one, and again that character you have to convert it as an upper using upper function, and again have to concatenate the rest of the characters of that word. That's how you will do, or you will implement your logic, right? What is that? Any questions? Wait. Okay. Fine. So when it is coming here, so that's how we change this data, like from one form to another form. But when you see here, it is readily available. These options are readily available. That's the reason we call it as a tool, and a powerful tool. So that is the beauty with a tool. Like you do not need to write down the queries for every requirement, every sort of requirement. The features will be available readily. So let's say let's say if I see here, we have all the capital letters and small letters are there. So if I change this format to lowercase, let's see what is happening. So everything got changed. Everything is got changed from to lowercase. If I change that one to uppercase, let's see what's happening. Why? Because sometimes the business asks that the name should be displayed in uppercase. I mean, all the letters should be in uppercase. So accordingly, based on the business requirement, again, either you can do it here or at the SQL level. Okay. So next comes up with our transformation with the capitalizing each word. So in a single click, that we are able to do it. And if you wanted to trim the data, again, that you can do the same thing. It will remove the trial spaces of both left and right side of the string. The trim function will do that. And let's say if you wanted to have the length, let's say what I wanted to the length of this name. So what I will do, I will create a duplicate column. And I will rename this name size, I would say, and then I will transform this to length. So now I got, again, I can do the shuffling by just dragging and dropping. So I will take this one near to the name. Okay. So I have this for every name, it is giving me the size of or the number of characters. Okay. That also I can do it for the reporting purpose. And let's see this thing, the split column. Okay, the split column. So if you see here, we have the same options that what we have seen in this split column. So there are different places we have given with this option, but both serves the same purpose. Here also the same thing, the same option, and here also comes up with your same option. So if you notice here, what it is saying, by delimiter, by number of characters, by position, and these things. But if I do the same thing on top of a integer column, let's see what are the splitting information it is giving it for. See what you have. Do you have that option? Do you have that option? No. So then that options will be automatically enabled and disabled with the data type of your column. So since it is a string column, there we can apply the transformations. There we can apply the transformation, and data can also be splitted accordingly. So let's say by delimiter. So when I choose this option, if you see here, what it is saying, it is again providing very flexible options to us that we don't need to worry about at all. So what it is doing, automatically choosing. Why? Because it is automatically looking into that what is the common delimiter. Space is the delimiter here. Why? Because there is a space for each word. Okay. So let's say replace values. Okay. So let's see if it is possible or not. Yeah, it is done, right? So what I did, I replaced the space with a dollar, and let's see how it is working over here when we are doing a split column by delimiter. So what it is doing, so automatically see how powerful it is. So earlier it was showing space for us. Why? Because it was going through the data, and the moment I change this one, it automatically given that option. You don't need to worry about like how to choose the options. It is automatically doing for us. So let's say if in case we do not want to use this option, on top of this we wanted to do it something, then again we can go and choose like, no, I don't want this dollar to be changed, I want some other character or something else that I can choose. And next comes up with your splitting options. So what you want to do, so the you want to keep your leftmost delimiter. I mean to say, let's say there are three strings. Example, okay, you have, this is the string, this is your string, and what this option is talking about, leftmost delimiter. So this is the leftmost delimiter. Okay, so do you want to split me John in one column and the rest of the things will be in another column? This option is talking about rightmost delimiter, just opposite to that. So this is the last one, this is the rightmost delimiter. It will keep John and Brian, and if any other text will be there in one single column, and the last string, this will be every string, the last word will be placed in a different column. That is what it is talking. And each occurrence of the delimiter, so what does it mean? So John will be placed in one column, and then after you will be having Brian will be placed in another column. Then after you will be having Chris be placed in another column. So then that's how you will the data will be separated, and that many number of times your columns will be created. Let's say at max, like in your entire column, you have four different words. So basically, what it will happen, it will create four different columns for you. And let's say you may think, so let's say for one of the string that four different words are there. So that's the reason it is splitted that into four different columns. What about Larry Gill? So Larry Gill is just two words, right? So what will happen for this case? So what it will do, it will place the data, it will split the data into two columns, and the rest of the two columns for this record will be nulls. Will be nulls. Why? Because there is no other string, right? So when it is coming here, for everything the same case. Let's say there are three words are there. What will happen? The first three columns will be splitted with the three words, and the last one will be filled up with a null. Why? Because the maximum number of words in a string in this entire column is 4. So that's the reason if you choose this option, entire occurrence of the delimiter, then it will be splitted accordingly. Okay. So now let's look into the advanced options in the splitting side. You have this quotes. You have these quotes. Using this option also, we can split our data. You have another option called split using special characters. We have tab, carriage, return. So you all know, like these are generally we see when it comes into the Excel. When it comes to the Excel feed that we generally feed the data into our ETLs. So we see these options. Now it is not required for us. Let's split the data and see what is happening. Immediately, it splitted your data into two different columns. What does it mean? It is clear, evident that we have max and on all the data in this column we have two records only, two words only. So that's the reason it is splitted the data into two different columns. It is splitted the data into the two different columns. If you see here, everything that we are doing here, everything is capturing. So you can go back to any particular step you wanted to, and you can see that information again. And on top of that information, again, you can perform your transformations. That flexibility is there. And we have that flexibility. Okay, let's see again by number of characters, split by number of characters. So let's see what is this option is. So again, if I wanted to split the data by by 3 characters, for every 3 characters, split the data into columns. So again, what it is saying, the same thing what we have seen in the delimiter option. Once as far left as possible. So what will happen? Let's say this is the string. This is the string. So with that option, what will happen? The first three characters will be in one column, and the rest of the thing will be another column. The first three characters will be one column, and the rest of the word will be another column. The same thing, once as far right as possible. What does it mean? So in this case, what will happen? This will be in one. This will be one column, and RIS, the last 3 characters, will be another column. Why? Because I'm giving the number as 3, and if I choose this option once as far right as possible, so it will be split like this. And repeatedly, what does it mean? Repeatedly means for every 3 characters. Sean, the 5 different columns will be created. With every 3 characters, 5 different columns will be created. So let's go to the advanced section, and here again we have split into columns, split into rows. That is also possible. That is also possible. And the number of columns into split into, it is automatically giving the 4. Why? Because it automatically already read the underlying data, and it found that maximum 12 characters are there in a string in this column. So that's the reason it was automatically giving the maximum the option. See, if I change this option, automatically these options are getting changed. If I choose this, it is giving that option. Everything is instantly and automatically it is doing it for. Yeah. So what will happen if I split that? If I split that number of rows, let's see what is happening. So number of rows, the same record will be repeated, but the data will be splitted and the number of records will be repeated. Example, this is for the first record. And let's say take an example for Larry. So what will happen? We understand that for every 3 characters, the data will be splitted. So the first row will be having LAR, the next row will be having RY. But all the rest of the columns, the values in the rest of the columns will be same. Instead of splitting the data into column wise, you are splitting the data into row wise. But generally, we don't do the splitting on top of the primary keys or any keys, right? Okay. So what if the case is like a primary key? But when it is coming here, you're not going to create any kind of a keys here. This is something that you are the developer, you need to take care of it. There is nothing like primary key or a foreign key concepts over here. You just have a relationships. There is no constraint concept here. Why? Because the constraints and everything will be implemented in the database side. Here you have a join concept, relationship concept. We have that thing. So even if you have a customer key or a primary key, but let's see. So what happened? The first 2 records, as I talked about. So if you see here, the customer key is repeated. So though it is a dimension table, that is repeated. This is just for learning purpose we are doing it, but generally in this, is this a use case that we do? No, we don't do it. That we are just going through with the steps or the features that we have available with. Yeah. So as and when required, if you remember, yesterday I have generated a summarized table. There we do not have, when we see a summarized table, we just see like the product key wise or something like that, product key wise, or let's say customer name wise sales. So if I wanted to split the data, in columns or in rows, in such situations you will not be having the keys. So summarized data, you can choose that option. Yeah. So in that case, you can choose that option. Okay. So what is that? So we have seen that number of characters, and also when it is coming to the advanced section, we do have an option of number of columns, a number of if I place 4 here, automatically it is doing the calculation. It is giving us 2. Why? Because we have split the data into rows, so the number of characters in each record is got reduced. Maximum it is 8, I think. So that's the reason it is doing like that. Okay. So this is how it works for the number of characters, split by number of characters. And if I see here, and again by position, by particular position. So you can choose the position of it, and either you can split the data by position or by rows or by columns. That again you can do it the same thing. If you wanted to split the data, lar will be in one column and rv will be another column. But if you wanted to split the data by rows, that is how what we are seeing now. It has created 2 different records, each for each 3 characters in the column, in this column. Okay, and again, this is how you can give the positions. Okay, based on the position, the data will be split into. Specify the positions at which to split the text column. So that is how you can do it. And next comes up with our lowercase to uppercase. Again, the same thing. So what is same thing? If you wanted, let's say take an example here, Gil. Gil, in the word Gil, G is the uppercase and the remaining rest of the characters are lowercase. So accordingly, on that basis also you can split the data based on your upper character and lower characters. So let's see how it is doing it. By upper case to lower case. What happened? So all the upper character letters is into one column and the rest of the word will be in another column. Let's say if you have if I'm not doing, let's take an example here, and I have a column here, and here I wanted to split the data by uppercase to lowercase. So what I will can do by uppercase to lowercase, what will happen every, are you sure you want to insert a step? Inserting an immediate step may affect the subsequent steps. Yes, the reason because the subsequent steps are the right, the data will be splitted out. The data will be splitted out. So let's see if we can do it, or else we will choose that option. Why? Because this is not anything we are doing it for, just we are walking it for our understanding. Okay, and next, now you can see, now you can see how the data got splitted out here. Okay, wherever it finds the upper character, that will break the data into different columns. If you see here, this Larry Gill, for the first letter it found the first character is a upper character, and then it sent the rest of the characters to the next column. And when it comes, the next comes, it finds the next upper character, then again it splitted the data and pushed that into another column. That's how it will do. That's how it will split the data. And next, so that is how, like, the similar thing by lowercase to uppercase or uppercase to lowercase. Okay, so let's see if we can see any kind of options when we do a right click on the date. See, so what is happening here? We basically, this option is itself is getting disabled here. This option itself is getting disabled here when you see in integers, when you see in the integers or with the dates. But we do have this option enabled here. So let's say if I wanted to split by a delimiter, okay, so what it is doing, it is giving that option, it is giving that option and each occurrence, and you can select that one. So what will happen? Days, months and years will be split into three different columns. Ideally we do not do that. So that's the reason this option is not enabled here at all. Okay, so but with this option you can do this. The option, the similar place where we have at the top ribbon, using that option we can do that. Clear? Any questions from anyone? Looks simple, right? Since we have covered all these things using different functions in SQL, so you should definitely correlate like how it is working there and how we are implementing here for every option that we are using here. Why? Because it is very simple to implement that requirement, very simple to change that splitting of the columns or anything, since I'm dealing with very few records in our training class. But when you go to the real time environment, when you go to the real time, you need to deal with millions of the records in your so using this any single feature is very, very worthwhile over there. But because every option that you choose, it directly impacts the performance of your report. So you need to decide whether you will go and implement this feature here or in the database. Let's say you are not dealing with a database. Your data is coming from the Excel feeds. So what is the other option that you left with? You have left with only the option that you can do all these transformations in the Power BI layer, the Power BI reporting layer. So that is the reason Power BI even providing the transformations as well. If you do not have these transformations, or if we do not have this Power Query window at all, then what we generally do, whatever, even if the data comes from the Excel, the very first step what we do, we load the data into a database, then perform the transformations, and then after use that tables as a source for the Power BI reporting. But with this implementation, with the features that what we have available with, so with this availability, what we are able to do it now, we are able to, I mean, let's say if our reporting tool is there and that we understand that in the project we get the data directly from the Excel or CSV or text files, then with these transformations, we can do the wonders in the Power BI itself. Then there is no need of purchasing the license for is there a database or a server. Clear? Any questions from anyone? Are we good so far?
Just a small question, Mani.
Yep. Yep. Go
If
ahead.
as what you were telling earlier, regarding we have to be conscious about the kind of steps we are taking when we are dealing it in terms of production environment. Do you think between split using a special character like comma, or if we explicitly write like after after 4 places you split the column, which do you think is computationally heavy?
See, both of them is same for Power BI. Why? Because you're transforming the data. In either of the options, we are transforming the data, right? And we are splitting the data, basically,
Yes.
either by using that option and here. But when it is coming to the, so on a high level, both are same on high level. But what generally happens in the backend? In the backend also, it performs some SQL queries. It performs some queries, right? I mean, is it a SQL query or a different language? Might be the Microsoft has used implemented for this Power BI, but everything it requires an IO operation, right? It has to interact with the data and it has to perform these calculations. If it is on the, let's say if it is the data is coming from the database with a direct query, then it has to pull the data and talk to the data, and on top of this it has to implement all these features. Let's say if you have imported the data, be it is from the Excel or from a database table, then again we have to perform these operations in the Power BI itself. So for when it is coming to Power BI, it is same. The options are same. I mean, be it is like the example which you talked about, either a delimiter or a number of characters. It is same.
Okay.
Yep. But the things will be changed, or the performance will be impacted when it comes with, when you are dealing with millions or a billions of the records. Okay.
Okay.
You got it right. So all these options, so basically what happens, it captures these applied steps. It captures the applied steps, every step that we do, either by splitting the data in one column into the different columns, by using any delimiter, or by the number of characters. Let's say you, as you said, like first 4 characters will be in one column and the rest of the 4 characters will be, everything will be captured over here. So but the options that you choose, the options that we choose, like when you go for splitting of your column by a delimiter, and you have, and we have these options, advanced options. So every action will be counted, right, during this performance. Let's say I just want this option, leftmost. and rightmost and each occurrence. So each occurrence, in the sense, it has to split the data into the number of columns. The number of columns will be increasing here. So the memory utilization.
Okay. Uh, so which brings me to my next question. So typically in the organization level, we start with cleaning the data first, like what you were doing in the first 5 steps, like
Right.
you know, trying to see what are all the different columns we have, break the columns if it's needed, then perform the calculated field, and then aggregate, or aggregate and then
Right.
okay.
Right.
So
Right.
so that has to be the typical sequence to ensure the performance is optimal.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as I said, like, why do we perform all these steps, and why do we have these options here? Why? Because it is not that always a case we will deal with a database or a relational database systems. We may deal with the non-relational database systems like Excel or a flat file or a CSV file. In such situations, these features are really important for you to transform the data from one form to another form. Okay, and as we talked about, we can perform all these options and splitting of the data and the number of records that you wanted to keep based on say, let's say I wanted to keep the top 10 records of this table, the sales table, or else I wanted to create a duplicate table where I will keep top 10 performers and top list performers. So how we can do it? Just by using these options. What I will do, I will simply sort the data in ascending order or by descending order by choosing the salary column. Then after, I will go with this option and I will choose this option, top 10 records. So accordingly, I will be having the data. But I generally don't create that. I'm giving you an example for how you will make an example, how you will keep how you will use these transformations. But when it comes to the visualization, there also you have an option. There also you have an option. You do not need to delete the data. If you create a separate copy, if you create a separate data set, and how it will be performed, and or else if you are not doing it, and on top of the visualization, let's say you have a millions of the records, and during the runtime of that visualization, if you choose that option, bringing the top 10 records into your visual, how it varies. Definitely, it will bring your performance poor. Why? Because you are applying the top records during the execution of the report, though it is possible in the visualization side. But let's say if you create the data set in advance, and since your already data set is created with the top 10 records, so you can just simply drag and drop these fields from the top 10 data set, and it would the display of the visualization would be very fast. That's how we have to choose which option is appropriate for us and when to go for the option, in considering or keeping the performance of your report in mind. Clear?
Yes, Mani.
Yeah, good. We will see. I will show you like how to display like the top 10 records in the visuals by applying the changes or the properties in the visualization pan itself. Okay, okay. We'll see that when we talk about the different Power BI dashboards that we create. Okay, so we have seen like how do we split the data and everything by using these various options over here, the splitting of the column. And this is very good feature that we have again available with Power BI, that it can do anything for us. I mean, we don't need to worry that okay, this is possible or not possible. You might have seen, we have seen like how different features are available, and how automatically it is choosing the delimiter by reading the data, and how it is making our job easier when choosing these options. And again, you can, using this option we can change the data type as well. Here again, this is one place where you can change the data type. And when you click on, right click on that, I think we do have yeah, this is also another option. This is another place where it is giving. And again, when you choose this option, here also you have an option for changing the data type. Okay, so sometimes what happens, your first row, we have seen that, right? When we are pulling the data from a web link, when we are pulling the data from a web link, we have seen that the first columns are given with column 1, column 2, and the actual rows are created with as a columns. First column, first record. The actual column names are created with first record, right? That is what we have seen, right? So with this option that you can convert, use first row as headers, automatically that will be changed. Automatically that will be changed. Or else let's use some web link. Let's say copy this one. Okay, so football codes. Yeah, if you see here, do we have the column names here? No. Seems like there is no proper data. Okay, anyway, so instead of spending the time on this one, just for our understanding, let's load this table. And so imagine that there is a column name here. Imagine that there is a column name, or else I can replace this value also index. I will give the name as index. What happened? Okay, it replaced all the values. Okay, again I need to replace this. Okay, so imagine that this is a column name and this is another column name. I can change this one to column names here. See, first row as columns that got converted, remove that column 1 and column 2, and the first row is converted as a column names. So generally what happens when we pull the data from a flat files or an Excel files, it loads the column names also as a one record in the table. In that situations, this option is helpful for again converting the first column into first row into the column names, first row into the column names. Okay, clear? Any questions from anyone? We are good so far. And
Yes.
so we have two options here: merge queries and append queries. So okay, let me stop here.